You are the Terran candidate?
Yes.
I am Karvok of the Dressari, champion of 3 planetary combat leagues.
Nice.
Nice.
The first thing the aliens noticed about the human was that he looked completely ordinary. No armored exoskeleton, no genetically enhanced muscles, no visible weapons, no glowing implants beneath his skin. Just a young man standing alone inside the massive entrance hall of the Veyrax Interstellar Military Academy, carrying a small black duffel bag over one shoulder. Around him stood warriors from 37 different worlds. Some were nearly 3 meters tall, some had 4 arms, others had reinforced bone plating, synthetic limbs, or biological weapons that had evolved over millions of years. And then there was the human. 2 arms, 2 legs, 1 heartbeat. That was it. A tall reptilian candidate beside him looked the human up and down, then laughed. "You are the Terran candidate?" The human glanced at him. Yes. The alien's laughter became louder. Several nearby candidates turned to look. "You are smaller than I expected." The human shrugged. "I get that a lot." The reptilian leaned closer. "I am Karvok of the Dressari, champion of 3 planetary combat leagues." He pointed toward himself proudly. "My species has hunted armored predators since we could walk." The human nodded. "Nice." Karvok blinked. "Nice?" "Yeah." The reptilian stared at him. "You are not impressed?" The human smiled slightly. "I didn't say that." Before Karvok could respond, a deep metallic voice echoed throughout the hall. "All candidates report to Combat Arena 7. The laughter stopped. Every candidate turned toward the enormous doors at the end of the hall. They opened. Beyond them was an arena so large that the ceiling disappeared into darkness. Thousands of spectators filled the surrounding platforms. Alien military officers, generals, diplomats, academy instructors, even representatives from the Galactic Defense Council. Because today wasn't an ordinary training exercise. Today was the Apex Combat Trial, the most difficult entrance examination at the most prestigious military academy in the known galaxy. Only 20 candidates would pass, and every candidate believed they would be one of them. The human didn't. At least, he didn't look like he did. He simply walked into the arena. The candidates were arranged in a circle. Above them, a gigantic holographic display activated. Apex Combat Trial. Then another message appeared. Round 1. Survival. A voice came from the control tower. Candidates will enter a simulated hostile environment. The objective is simple. Survive for 12 minutes. A few aliens smiled. 12 minutes? That was nothing. Then the instructor continued. However, there is one additional condition. The arena went silent. Your environment will adapt to your behavior. A few candidates frowned. The instructor continued. Your opponents will learn. Your weapons will degrade. Your terrain will change. And every 10 seconds, the simulation will become more dangerous. The human looked up at the display. Interesting. The instructor's voice became colder. You may surrender at any time. If you surrender, you fail. If you are incapacitated, you fail. If you attempt to leave the designated combat zone, you fail. A countdown appeared. 10, 9, 8. The human adjusted the strap of his bag. 7, 6. Across the arena, Karvok cracked his knuckles. 5, 4. A blue energy field formed around every candidate. 3, 2, 1. The world disappeared. The human landed on his feet. He was standing inside a ruined city. Buildings surrounded him. Smoke drifted between broken towers. The sky was dark red. Something moved in the distance, then another, then dozens. The simulation had begun. The human looked around. No weapon, no allies, no instructions. Then the first creature emerged from the smoke. It was enormous,
4 legs, 6 eyes, a mouth filled with glowing teeth. The creature charged. The human ran, not toward it, away from it. Several spectators laughed. The human sprinted through the ruined street as the creature chased him. "Is that his strategy?" one alien officer asked. "Apparently." The creature gained on him. The human suddenly turned left. The beast followed. He turned right. It followed again. Then the human stopped. The creature lunged. At the last possible moment, the human jumped sideways. The creature smashed into a damaged building. Concrete collapsed around it. The human stared, then looked at the building, then at the creature. A small smile appeared on his face. Okay. He ran again. 3 minutes passed. Across the arena, candidates were already falling. One insectoid warrior was trapped under simulated debris. A 4-armed alien had lost one of his virtual weapons. Karvok was fighting 3 creatures simultaneously. The audience cheered. Karvok tore through one, then another. He looked unstoppable. The human? He was still running. He wasn't fighting. He wasn't even carrying a weapon. He was simply moving through the city. But something strange was happening. The creatures weren't catching him. Every time one attacked, he used the environment. A broken vehicle, a collapsed bridge, a narrow alley, a staircase. He wasn't faster than the creatures. He wasn't stronger. He was simply making them fight the environment instead of him. At the 5-minute mark, the instructor spoke. "Difficulty increase." The sky turned black. The streets shifted. Buildings moved. The simulation changed. The creatures became faster. The human stopped. For the first time, he looked genuinely concerned. A creature appeared behind him. He turned. It attacked. He barely escaped. It attacked again. He ran. But this time, there was nowhere to go. The creature cornered him against a wall. The audience leaned forward. The human looked left, right, then at the creature. It charged. He jumped. The creature smashed into the wall. The human rolled away. But before he could stand, another creature appeared. Then another. Then 4 more. 6 creatures surrounded him. The human slowly stood. The audience became silent. The creatures moved closer. He looked at them, then looked toward the sky, and for the first time since the trial began, he laughed. Not because the situation was funny, because he had just realized something. The simulation wasn't trying to kill him. It was trying to understand him. He whispered, "So that's how this works." The creatures attacked. The screen above the arena flashed. Candidate 17, critical threat. The human disappeared beneath the swarm. The audience erupted. Karvok looked over from across the city. He expected to see another candidate eliminated. Instead, he saw something impossible. The creatures suddenly stopped. 1, 2, 3, then all 6. They stood motionless. The human slowly crawled out from under them. His clothes were torn. His face was bruised, but he was standing. The audience went silent. The instructor stared at the control panel. That shouldn't happen. An assistant looked at him. What? The simulation hasn't stopped. Then why aren't the creatures attacking? The instructor checked the data. His expression changed. They're waiting. For what? The instructor looked at the human. He's not being evaluated anymore. What do you mean? He's being studied. The timer reached 0647. The human looked at the creatures, then at the surrounding buildings, then at the ground. He finally understood. Every candidate approached the trial the same way. Fight the enemies, avoid the traps, survive the 12 minutes. But the simulation wasn't measuring strength. It was measuring adaptation. Every action created a response. Every repeated strategy made the simulation stronger. The aliens had been trying to defeat the environment. The human had been trying to understand it. He looked toward the sky. Computer? The simulation didn't respond. He tried again. Training system? Nothing. He smiled. Fine. He picked up a piece of broken metal from the ground, then walked toward one of the creatures. The creature immediately raised its claws. The human stopped. He threw the metal piece to the left. The creature's eyes followed it. The human threw another piece to the right. The creature looked the other way. The human's smile disappeared. Now he was thinking. Fast. He turned toward the nearest building, then toward the 6 creatures, then toward the massive energy barrier surrounding the arena, and suddenly he understood the real purpose of the trial. The 12 minutes weren't the test, the adaptation was. He looked at the creatures. Let's try something. At 0731, the human did something no candidate had done before. He stopped trying to survive. Instead, he started deliberately testing the simulation. He stepped forward. The creatures moved. He stepped backward. They followed. He ran left. They adjusted. He ran right. They adjusted again. Then he stopped moving entirely. The creatures stopped too. The human's eyes narrowed. Interesting. He raised one hand. The creatures mirrored his movement. He lowered it. They lowered their heads. The human stared at them, then whispered, "You're learning from me." Inside the control room, every technician froze. One of them whispered,
"He figured it out." The instructor turned toward him. "Figured out what?" The technician swallowed. "The simulation isn't just adapting to his movements," he pointed at the screen. "It's building a behavioral model." The instructor stared. "And?" The technician's voice became quieter. "He's deliberately feeding it false information." The human suddenly sprinted. The creatures followed. He climbed a staircase. They followed. He jumped through a window. They followed. He ran into a narrow corridor. They followed. Then he stopped. The creatures entered. The human smiled. He had led them exactly where he wanted. He stepped aside. The creatures charged past him and crashed into each other. The simulation recalculated. The human watched, then did it again, and again, and again. He wasn't defeating the creatures. He was teaching them the wrong lesson. For the first time, the audience understood. The human wasn't the strongest candidate. He wasn't the fastest. He wasn't the most heavily armed. He wasn't even the best fighter. But he was doing something the Academy hadn't expected. He was learning faster than the simulation could learn him. The timer reached 09:58. Only 2 minutes remained. The human stood in the center of the ruined city. Then the sky changed. The entire environment went completely black. Every creature disappeared. Every building vanished. The human stood alone. A new message appeared. Final phase. Then, unknown threat. The human stared at the words. His smile disappeared. Something enormous began moving in the darkness. The ground shook. A shape emerged. It was unlike anything he'd seen before. It had no face, no visible weakness, no recognizable anatomy, just a massive armored creature standing nearly 20 meters tall. The human took one step backward. For the first time, he looked afraid. The creature raised its arm. A weapon formed from its body. The human looked around. There was nowhere to run. The countdown appeared. 199. The creature attacked. The human barely escaped. The impact destroyed half the simulated street. He hit the ground, rolled, stood. The creature attacked again. He dodged. Again. He dodged. Again. He couldn't keep this up. His breathing became heavier. The creature was too powerful. Then he noticed something. Every time it attacked, it paused for exactly 1 second. 1 second. The human stared, then counted. 1. The creature attacked. 2. Another attack. 3. Another. He looked toward the creature, then at the remaining timer. 121. A crazy idea entered his mind. He could try to survive, or he could test it. The human dropped his guard. The creature raised its weapon. The audience screamed. The human didn't move. The weapon came down and stopped inches from his head. The human smiled. There it was, the weakness. not physical, behavioral. The simulation had been programmed to give candidates a fraction of a second to react, but the human had just discovered something else. The final enemy wasn't designed to be defeated, it was designed to be understood. He looked directly at it, then at the control tower, and said, "I know what you're doing." The instructor froze. The human continued, "You're not testing whether we can beat the enemy." He looked back at the creature. "You're testing whether we can recognize the rules." The timer reached 00:59. The human stepped toward the monster. The audience held its breath. Then he did something completely unexpected. He lowered his hands and said, "I surrender." The arena went silent. 00:57. The instructor stared at the screen. "What?" The human repeated, "I surrender." The system responded, "Surrender confirmed." The simulated world vanished. The human appeared back in the arena. His clothes were damaged. He was breathing heavily, but he was alive. Above him appeared, "Candidate 17 failed." The audience erupted in laughter. Carvok stared at him. The instructor stepped forward. "You failed the Apex combat trial." The human looked at the screen, then calmly asked, "Can I do it again?" The instructor frowned. "You what?" The human wiped the dirt from his face. "Second round?" The instructor laughed. "You have no second round." The human looked around the arena, then pointed toward the other candidates. None of them finished either. The instructor's expression hardened. "That doesn't change your result." The human nodded. "I know." He looked directly into the instructor's eyes. "That's why I'm asking for another chance." The entire arena went quiet. Then the Academy's central computer suddenly displayed a message that had never appeared during an entrance trial before. "Anomalous candidate behavior detected." The instructor turned toward the control room. "What is that?" The technician stared at the screen. "I don't know." The computer generated another message. "Recommendation, initiate unscheduled secondary trial." The instructor's eyes widened. "That protocol hasn't been used in 83 years. The technician nodded. "Then maybe there's a reason." The instructor looked back at the human. "Candidate 17? Yes? You wanted a second round." The giant arena doors began opening. Beyond them was a darker chamber, much larger, much older, and according to the Academy's records, no candidate had ever survived it. The instructor smiled. "Let's see what humans are really capable of." The human looked into the darkness, then picked up his duffel bag. Finally, he walked inside. Behind him, the doors closed, and somewhere deep beneath the Academy, something woke up.